Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Man, here we are. The month of June is upon us. I'm gonna break it down. The top 3 baits that I think you've got to have tied on for the month of June. All right, so June, I'm thinking about June. Fish are moving offshore. This happens sooner in the country. If you're down south at Falcon, they've moved offshore in April. Rayburn, they're moving offshore the 1st of May. But as it transgresses, up through, where my part of the country, Grand Lake, Table Rock, Kentucky Lake, Pickwick, all those lakes right in the middle part of our country, the first week of June is the magical week that fish are offshore. And with that said, the #1 bait that I'm gonna have tied on, without a shadow of a doubt, is gonna be a deep diving crankbait. These bad boys right here. There's a couple reasons. One, obviously, is that the bass are feeding on shad. That's what they're after. This time of year, they're just out there schooled up, out off on that offshore structure, out off those points, feeding on shad. But the real reason why this is my #1 bait is it's a great search bait. I can cover water really quickly. Over these other baits that I'm going to talk to you about, I can find where they're at. So this is going to be the bait that I'm going to pick up. I'm going to go until I find them. I've got 3 different sizes here. Always choose one that dives deeper than where you feel like the fish are going to be located. So if I'm fishing an offshore hump and the top of it's, say, 16, 18 feet of water, then I want my 20-foot diver, my 20.5 dredger. That's going to get down to that depth. You ask, why do I not use the 17.5 dredger? Well, when they put 17.5 on any of those crankbaits, I don't care what brand it is, all of them, they all put a depth on the package. That's under optimal conditions. That's with 10-pound test, that's with a super long cast. That's optimal conditions. It's hard for me to ever get a bait to that depth when it says that on the package. So always go with the one a little bit deeper than you need to achieve, because I'm gonna crank 12-pound test, and that's what I recommend you do also. It's just a little bit tougher. Now, there are times that I go to 10-pound test if I need to get a bait super deep, but most of the time I'm cranking 12-pound test. So, I've got a 25.5 here for those locations that's 20 to 23, 4 foot deep. I've got a 20.5, and then I've got a 14.5, for them areas that I'm cranking, 10 to 12 feet of water, that 14.5, really good bait. Now, as far as colors, I always would have to say the old chartreuse blue would be my first and foremost color. When that water visibility is, 2 foot, 2.5 feet, 1.5 foot, any of those areas, that's going to be my #1 color. I just always like that, but I'm always going to bag it up with something white based. This lavender shad is going to be really great. It's going to be really good as that water starts to clear up, and just going to show them something different. And then I threw a curveball in there for you guys. It's the new HD Tennessee shad pattern. Berkley has some new HD colors out. They've got a phenomenal bluegill color, a herring color, the HD Tennessee shad. So just an awesome color. And with that said, guys, with all my videos, I'm giving all these baits away. I'm gonna mail them to you guys. Man, just be sure you like, you comment, you subscribe, do all those things that help me. In return, I'm gonna help you guys by mailing these baits out, and there's some super cool ones coming. So crankbaits, bait you gotta have tied on. 7/6 rod, 12-pound test for the most part, 6/8 to 1 or slower gear ratio reel. Mine's a 6/8 to 1. And cover water. Make as long a cast as you can. Make sure it's running true. Make sure you tie where that split ring comes together. You don't ever want to tie opposite of it, because at times that can affect how that bait comes through the water. Just little details like that's going to help you guys. So tie where that split ring comes together, right there. I always put my knot in that smallest part, and then when it's pulling, it's opposite of that, and the end of that split ring's not hitting the side of that crankbait, because if it's hitting the side of that crankbait, it can cause it to go off no matter how many times you tune and adjust it. So if you tie there, and then always just very first thing I do is make sure bait's running true right out of the package. If not, just bend it the opposite direction, that little line tie right there, to get it to run true. Super important. I see so many people often overlook that. That's how you achieve those maximum depths with that. I always replace the hooks on my crankbait with these Berkley Fusion EWG style hooks. I feel like it's got better holding power. I don't lose as many fish. I'm going to throw these on a composite rod. The rod I use is a 7/6 medium heavy crank and stick. You can go back and watch. I did a really cool video, 2-part series last year in June summertime cranking on these. I got a lot of details on my setup, on my line, my bait, how to throw it in that video if you guys want to go back and watch that. Okay, bait number two. Let's go with a worm on a stand-up head. You see right here, this is a 1/4 ounce head right here. I have a 3/8 ounce head, I have 1/2 ounce heads, bigger, longer shank hook. And this is the special sauce right here. Berkley Max Scent Worm. If you had to choose one color only, I'm gonna choose plum. And you know, I narrowed this down to 3. So there's other worms that I will use. I will use like a big fatty bottom hopper worm, you know, something like that, and green pumpkin. It's a little bit bigger worm. I really like that a lot. But I just narrowed it down to 1 to make this simple for you guys. But when rigging your worm, be sure, I mean, the one mistake you can make is you go in too far. So I do not go in very far at all. You can see I just go in just a little bit, just to the barb. Let's say measure that distance. Because if you go in too far, it won't make it straight. Now you can see that worm's just on that hook like that, and then I lay the worm on the side. It's just everything in your fishing, guys, needs to be straight. It keeps from twisting your line. It's more natural in the water. It falls better. But you can see now I've got that hook point just barely poking out right there, but it's perfectly straight. That's just so important that everything is straight this way and this way on that worm to make it work good. So you just don't go in too far. Let me show you what happens when you go in too far. So if you go in too far, and some people want to do this to keep their worm from falling off or to make it last longer, when I go in too far, well, I pushed it up, it'd be about like that. Then you try to put this in like this, it does not get straight. It's hard to make it straight. See how that doesn't look as good? I just don't like that. I want it all very, very straight. So don't go into that worm too far when you go to rig that up. And the great thing about that head is it's got a longer shank, fairly light wire. I don't want too heavy of a wire hook because you got to think about how far you're casting, hook penetration. You know, go with a light wire hook on that shaky head, but one that's still big enough and beefy enough, you know, to get a good hook set. And I always like to look at the distance between the point and the belly of the hook, because that's where a fish's mouth has to sit. So if that's too short, you just lose fish. I don't know what else to say about it, but that's a good hook. And the thing else I like about that hook, it's got that recessed line tie, kind of protects it when I'm dragging it down along the rocks. I'm gonna mail this to you guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and I'll mail this stuff out. 3 packages of it, and you guys will get it. Okay, last. This is a special sauce, man. This is a hair jig. Just don't forget about a hair jig. When you throw that in the water, it looks completely different. You know, the couple mistakes that I see people make when they throw a hair jig: too big a line, 12 to 14 pound test, and too heavy of a hair jig. I really like a 1/2 ounce to 5/8 ounce size. It takes time for it to get to the bottom in 20, 25 feet of water, but it's the fall. You know, the hair jig for me is something that I throw out there, I let it go to the bottom, and there's 2 ways. I'm either gonna jerk it real erratically and then let it fall back, or I'm gonna just hop it up and then let it fall. Just hop it up and let it fall. And it's a great bait for when those fish are up off the bottom. It's a great bait in pressured situations. It's just a really, really good bait. It really is silent coming through the water, and they will flat eat it. It's just an awesome, awesome bait, the hair jig. So that is my top 3 baits, guys. You know, throw this on a worm rod, you know, 12 to 14 pound test, a high speed reel, because you got to take that slack up because the bite always comes on the fall. But I'm gonna throw in one extra bait just for the heck of it, because you cannot fall to sleep on the old swim bait in June too. So I'm gonna have a 1/2 ounce head most of the time. Now I will go up to a bigger head if I'm having to make them react, but this is the Berkley Power Swimmer. This is the new Berkley Swimbait head. It's a really neat bait, neat head. You can see it's got an awesome, awesome hook holding mechanism on there. I also put a little drop of glue, but you just rig this thing just like you would any other jig head. I'm gonna come right out the top, just like that. And I'm not gonna throw this on big line. 14 pound test is what I'm gonna throw it on. You know, shad colored. This is gonna be something in that clear situation, in that 2.5 and clear type watercolor. I'm gonna throw it out to the bottom, and I'm gonna let it go all the way to the bottom. Throw it out there and let it go all the way to the bottom, and then just slow wind it in. And I imagine I'm gonna reel this thing like 15 or 20 feet, and then I just pause, I kill it. So it's coming, it's coming up, fish is following it, and then I kill it and it goes to the bottom, and that's when you'll get that bite. So you've got to remember to pause that thing, let it go back to the bottom. You know, the only time I'm not gonna do that is if I've got suspended fish on bridge piling, something different, that's a whole nother video. But this again is a cleanup bait. It all starts with the crankbait. This is where we find them, and then we go through these other baits to catch all of them in that school and to have a lot of fun. So one thing that a mistake when fishing swim baits that I make, and I have to be super cognizant about, is to rig this thing absolutely straight. You can see right there, I've got a little belly in it. That's not gonna run true. Also this way, I've got to make sure everything is in perfect line. So I'm actually gonna rip that plastic down just a little bit, and it's kind of off. See how it's not in the center now? That's not good. I mean, I hate to tell you, it's not good. This thing has to be coming through the water perfectly straight in all your swim baits, because if it's not coming perfectly through the water, it's not gonna look real. So I actually need to take that back off and re-rig it. So I'm gonna move it over just a little bit, and I do all that, and then I put the super glue on there. So now I've got a really straight, I got a little bit of a bubble right there, but a little straight. It's the details, guys. It's all about the details. It has to be perfectly straight when working that swim bait. And I'm just sitting there looking down it, and that's a lot better. I'd like to have that bubble out, so like to actually make it super perfect, I'm gonna bring it back out and bring that up. And now that I'd have that all straight, I kind of ripped the plastic there. Now I'd put my super glue on there, I would hold that thing on there, and it's perfectly straight. I got perfectly level here, everything's perfectly straight. You know, this away. Make sure when you rig it, pay attention to that detail, because you've got to have this thing running directly true. When it falls, I want it to fall straight down. It makes a big difference on those swim baits when you're throwing them, to have all those really straight. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. You know, this is my top baits for the 1st of June. You know, this is what happens, and these things have caught a lot of fish for me. I've won events on Kentucky Lake with baits just like these, and I hope this helps you guys. Be sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next week. Project D coming up, and then we've got where you're gonna go throw all these. I'm gonna break all this stuff down on a map, break down 3 lakes. You know, it's a whole nother series that we do. You guys comment on a lake to do. I always do a lake I've never seen. And so next week, next Thursday, we're gonna be showing you where to throw these on the map, on my Lowrances, on Google Earth. So see you guys next week. Thanks a lot for watching.